probably agree on.
Yeah, the playoff team for sure.
So do you.
I mean, I tell you what, I don't think there was a more accurate state. And
if they struggle again, I mean, I don't think there's any way you can keep Alex Critch, but.
What's going on, y'all? Bud Elliott here, back again on the Cover 3 podcast. This is another summer school edition. Today, it's Colorado. There's one place to head for awesome, in-depth, professional Colorado coverage. That's Buff Stampede and my man, Adam Munstertiger. What's going on, Adam?
Just, wrangling the kids this summer. I know you're doing the same. And so this is, like I was telling you before we hit record, this is a nice little break for us to escape to our office.
Absolutely. I'm sure the weather there in Boulder is a little bit better than what we have here in Orlando. Today we had the 94, but feels like 99. So it's been a good day of indoor stuff. Colorado, quite a few changes. Last year made a big improvement, almost made a bowl game, which, is not that easy to do after the season that they had in 2022. I want to start on some of the coaching changes. So Deion Sanders, Sean Lewis out. They bring in more of an NFL approach on offense, new offensive line coach as well with Phil Loadhill, and then also more of an NFL approach on defense. How do you expect the offense to look different? Because, to my mind, like this new OC, he was involved last year, but they couldn't have been running his stuff fully, right? Like, do you have a feel for what his offense is going to look like?
Yeah, it's not going to be a traditional NFL style offense, but it is going to be substantially different than the offense that they ran through the first 8 games of the 2023 season under Sean Lewis. And everybody knows that Sean Lewis is a brilliant offensive mind. And I'd expect San Diego State to do really well under him. It just did not mesh with him at Colorado and with Shedeur Sanders. And so they made a change 8 weeks into the season. And Pat Shurmur, was not able to change the offense a whole lot. You saw a few wrinkles here and there. And one of those main things was slowing it down at times, especially when you're bringing in so many pieces through the transfer portal. If there's anybody guessing out there, all of a sudden the offense really stalls. And the offensive line issues were obviously a big part of that. But there also were choice routes where Shedeur just didn't trust that the receiver was thinking the same thing that he was. And they were playing so fast that it was sometimes, in his eyes, hard for them to all get on the same page. And so Pat Shurmur is not going to run that go up-tempo offense that Sean Lewis is known for. But they're not going to be 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Obviously, Shedeur Sanders is your quarterback, so you're going to have 4 receivers out there. It's going to be a spread look that they run. And so beyond that, we're kind of guessing. We do know that they want to run it between the tackles more than they did last year. It was big in the RPO game of Shedeur Sanders having to make decisions with the run game. And since the middle of the offensive line wasn't getting a push, he kept the ball and went into the pocket and looked for options there. This year, it's going to be called runs where they're going to know going into it, that's what they're going to do, unless there's something crazy and Shedeur audibles out of it. But it's going to be a more traditional offense in that sense, but it's not going to necessarily resemble an NFL offense.
I know Shedeur can handle the mental load, but I was listening to a show the other day with a coordinator, and he was talking about how if you're calling 80 plays a game and all of your runs are tagged RPOs, the mental load on a quarterback actually is pretty substantial. Like they're having to make a real decision every play. And it's nice to be able to give them sort of an in-game breather, if you will, just hand the damn ball off at times. Right. So I'm interested to see how that works out for them. Defensively, I don't know what to think of this defensive coordinator hire and what he's going to run or how it's going to work. Do you have a good feel for that?
Yeah, I think this is going to be kind of an NFL mindset of last year, Charles Kelly had a very complex system that he brought with him from Alabama. And you didn't have a lot of players outright saying that they hated the defense, but what they were saying is that you were thinking a little bit more than you wanted to. And so sometimes that caused issues. We saw some of the breakdowns were just mental breakdowns. And so Robert Livingston comes in, and this is preseason. So when the live bullets come flying, we'll see if this holds true, but it's going to be tailored to the strengths of his playmakers. And they're going to run a defense that allows guys to not be out there thinking all the time. It helps that they brought in more talent from the portal. It is a question mark, though. This is Robert Livingston's first time as a defensive coordinator. He spent a dozen years in the NFL with the Cincinnati Bengals, learned under some of the best defensive minds in college football, but this is his first time in this role. And so coming down to the college level where he doesn't have a ton of coaching experience, that's where the question mark comes in. But Coach Prime really felt a connection with him, and he wants to go to more of NFL guys on the staff. And I think that helps a little bit when you're more recruiting transfer portal centric to have guys that come from the NFL, because guys that are transferring are sometimes only a year of eligibility left, and they want to learn from NFL coaches at that point. And so you're not developing those high school guys and waiting for them 3 years down the road the same way, especially at Colorado with Coach Prime right now. So that was kind of the thinking, I think, with bringing in an NFL guy there. The players love him. Again, it's preseason. We'll see when the live bullets get flowing, but there does seem to be players that are playing and practicing with a little bit more ease in terms of knowing what their responsibilities are.
Certainly play faster if you have a better comfort in the system. Who's a guy who probably won't be voted first or second team all Big 12 at Media Day, but who could be voted that, in the postseason edition of the award?
LeJontay Wester comes over from FAU, and I don't know, he might get a couple of votes for second team all Pac-12, or Big 12. Goodness, I got to get that out of my brain. He might get some votes there, but because he's coming from FAU, maybe some folks won't think that, he's quite to that level. But having a chance to hear what he did and see a little bit of it this spring, he's an ankle breaker out there, and he's going to be a punt returner for Colorado as well. That was something that he did and was actually an All-American as a punt returner at FAU. So he's a guy that I really like to kind of step up in that role. And defensively, BJ Green probably won't get a lot of votes for first or second team all Big 12 preseason, but you look at his pass rushing stats at Arizona State last year, and they're off the charts, and he comes in. And last year, Colorado had basically one elite pass rusher in Jordan Dominic. This year, they bring over Deion Hayes from Pittsburgh, Samuel Okunlola from Pittsburgh. Those were Pittsburgh's top two pass rushers last year. And they have some other guys in the program that were coming on last year, like Missouri transfer Arden Walker. So there's a lot of options on the pass rush, and I could see BJ Green kind of being the leader of that group and being a guy at the end of the season that would be in consideration.
Where are they the deepest on this team?
They're deep at receiver. They really are. They lose Xavier Weaver, who was their leading receiver last year, but obviously Travis Hunter is back. You bring back Jimmy Horn, who had a pretty solid season last year. Needs to be a little bit more consistent. There were some drop issues at times from him. I mentioned LeJontay Wester. And I haven't even got to Will Shepherd, who was Vanderbilt's best receiver the past few years, and is somebody that obviously has NFL aspirations coming over and has a chance to play quite a bit. Omarion Miller had almost 200 yards receiving in the second half against USC last year. Got a phone call from Snoop Dogg to congratulate him. Didn't do a whole lot last year outside of that half, but had a really excellent spring, and is a guy that if he can get on the field with the talent that they have at that position, I think is going to be a really good player. And there's some other guys down the list as well. That's a position that they're going to be able to rotate if they want to, but it's going to be hard to keep LeJontay Wester and Travis Hunter off the field, because you want those guys out there making plays as much as you can.
What are the fall position battles that you think will most determine this team's fate?
Well, it's really both sides of the line. Last year, they were able to bring in some transfers on both the offensive and defensive lines, but a lot of those guys were not proven starters at their previous school. They were more, it was Coach Prime was kind of building this roster on the fly last year. And you're kind of always doing that a little bit with the transfer portal, but they were able to evaluate options a little bit differently this year. And so it's not now where you go into camp feeling like you've got 5 or 6 guys competing for spots. Now you've got really a 2 deep that's out there competing. And so the offensive line, you got some guys you think are probably going to start. One gets surprised named Hank Zolinskas at center that's really emerged. He was actually verbally committed to Carl Jarrell's staff. So he's one of the few guys that has remained. But those spots are going to be up for grabs on both lines.
How has Jordan Seaton looked?
Really good. He gave up 1 sack in the spring game, and I think you're going to have to expect that from time to time with him. The thing is, he seems to learn really quickly from his mistakes, and so you have to have certain expectations for a true freshman. But the people that are in and around the program, I mean, it's not even a question if he's going to be the starting left tackle. I don't think. I mean, he's basically in Penn in that role. Shedeur Sanders has that much faith in him, and he's going to be in the NFL draft and probably a high first-round pick in a couple of years.
Have they indicated what the plan is going to be for Travis Hunter? And I asked this because when I watched last year, I thought it was awesome how much they got out of him, but I also questioned, is it sustainable to play him this much on both sides of the ball? I mean, especially when you're taking snaps at altitude. Have they said kind of how they plan to use him for this year?
It's going to be the same. When he's healthy, he's going to be playing pretty much full-time both ways. Now, we did see him take reps off on offense last year, and especially with all that talent that I mentioned at receiver, you might do that a touch more this year, but Deion Sanders has said that Travis Hunter gets bored if he's not in the game, and he never gets tired. And we see in the workouts, I mean, there are guys that are borderline running to the trash can, and Travis Hunter's dancing in front of the camera. He just doesn't seem to have ever any conditioning issues. Now, you expose him every snap that he's out there. He took that cheap shot against Colorado State last year, and that knocked him out for a little bit. So the more you're out there, the more you're exposed. But you've got 1 year left of Travis Hunter and 1 year left of Shedeur Sanders as well. So you've got to try to squeeze as much out of this as you can. Now, if Travis Hunter had conditioning issues, then you wouldn't want to do that because it'd be kind of like a law of diminishing returns almost. But he doesn't seem to have that issue ever, to be honest with you. So it was interesting too this spring. They had him playing some at nickelback, whereas last year he was strictly a cornerback when he was on defense. And kind of their philosophy there is that they're going to have Travis Hunter kind of shadow the other team's best receiver, whether that's out of the slot or outside. He's going to just kind of move around with that guy defensively this year. So that's one change you're going to see out of him from the way he's utilized.
Where do you think Shedeur Sanders can take the next step in his game?
I think it's going to be early on trusting the pocket a little bit more because I think while the ceiling of this offensive line is still up for debate, especially because you've got so many different guys that are going to be battling for spots, but the floor of that offensive line is so much better than it was going into last year. So he is going to have more time. And so that's the key for him. It really is. I mean, he's super accurate. He's got pretty good poise when he trusts the pocket around him. And so I really, it comes down to that for me.
The finishing stretch for this team looks kind of daunting. I mean, at Texas Tech is probably the one place in the Big 12 where traditionally I feel like it's the biggest gap between playing them home or away, just the way they seem to play in Lubbock. Utah at Kansas, Oklahoma State. But am I wrong to think that they could get off to a really good start here? I mean, you get Nebraska early with quarterback Raiola there. In Colorado State, Baylor is maybe the worst team in the Big 12. Who knows? I look at this. They had kind of better start hot if they want to have a chance to reach the Big 12 title game, right?
Yeah, no question. It's a schedule that has seemingly more coin flip games than any Colorado schedule I've seen in 21 years covering this program. It really is hard to, you like to get the schedule and start going win, loss. You can try to do that with Colorado's schedule this year, but it's really difficult. There's certain games like Utah. You're going to pencil that in as a loss just because of what Utah has done in recent years. But generally on that schedule, there's a lot of question marks you're putting down.
Yeah, I mean, like almost everything on my sheet is somewhere between 30 and 70% win probability. Like there's not a lot of 90 and 10. It's going to be fascinating. A hypothetical for you, kind of a fun one. 2024 plays 2023 Colorado 12 times, like a full regular season. What is 2024's record?
Well, the ball bounces in weird ways in some football games, so you got to factor that in. But mean, they've improved the roster pretty much at every position. Now you could look to running back and you could say, okay, you can make a debate that you'd rather have last year's running back group. And I wouldn't fight you too hard on that. But you also have to look at this year that they're going to get a better push from that offensive line. So the ground game, especially, you're not going to be asking Shedeur Sanders in the RPO game to make all these decisions. So you're going to have more designed runs. So the ground game itself should be better, even if you would take last year's backs over this group. So, I mean, I would say 11-1, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, they do seem to be better at really pretty much every position. I'm excited to see what they can do here. Like when Deion said, hey, we're gonna make the playoff, I was like, all right, that seems crazy, but being really improved does not seem really that crazy to me. And it's the Big 12. Like, if by some chance Utah and Kansas State are not maybe quite what we think they are, then the league is truly like really, really wide open, and anything can happen. I know we'll be watching. We've followed all your coverage on Buff Stampede. Really appreciate it.
Of course, bud. Appreciate it.